You had mentioned earlier about not putting so much pressure on certain games and whatnot. I just kind of put it out there to Italy, and I'm like, Italy, it doesn't the winning the championship doesn't matter. If that mattered, then only the state championship would have kids recruited. The team that win the state championship would have kids recruited. Only the kids who win the Nike Peach Jam would have kids recruited, or what the finals of the other shoe circuit. The championships for those or whatnot. I said so. It's not about winning and losing. Yes, she's super competitive. I said, but you never know who's watching any game. You never know who's watching you while you're eating at a restaurant.
Right.
You don't know who's staying in your hotel. I said, so you never know who's watching. They see those kids running up and down the hallway in the hotel just as much as they see those kids running up and down the basketball court at the gym. You know, you don't know which college coach is watching you, or what scouting service is watching you, what person period is watching you, and see you bless somebody else, and that changes how what they might do. I said, so you always have to approach everything like somebody might be watching.
Right.
And so, whether it's the first game of the tournament or the championship game of the tournament, whether it's you eating dinner, whether it's how you handle yourself in a stressful situation, somebody might be watching to see how you handle it, and that could change everything. And I said, you don't know which opportunity is the opportunity.
Hello, welcome to episode 4 for the love of the game. So, Coach Fowler, tell us about your experiences down in Orlando this last week. Tell us how that tournament went, and what did you see down there, and anything you'd like to report back to us?
Listen, I know you're in one of the AAU groups, and man, they tore that tournament apart in the AAU. That was the worst tournament, man, that I haven't been to one that bad in so long.
Wow.
And it was Puma Nationals, man. It's crazy that Puma would put on that disgrace of a tournament.
Oh, wow.
Um, Man, it was a mess. It was a mess. The schedule didn't games start on Thursday. Schedule didn't come out till Tuesday. Uh, we got 4 games everywhere else, but at nationals you get 3 games, and if you lose one, you're not playing for anything. So if you lose your first game, you're not playing for anything the rest of the tournament.
Wow.
So it's like you're down there. You just spent all this money to go to Orlando's, and I think I paid 200 and something dollars for 3 wristbands. Um, yeah, man. $21 a day to park.
Jesus.
Uh, so and we lost our first game. So we spent the rest of the time just playing for nothing. I mean, there were games. They listen, Tony. They started some games at 11:30 at night that were supposed to start at like 8.
Oh, jeez.
They were
That's
behind. They were
terrible.
so behind, man. I feel like that tournament is a brand. We were talking to another coach, and he was upset because he said he was supposed to play at 6, and they got out of there at 10:30. And
Oh,
and so it's like you're scheduling like your dinners around these things, and team activities and whatnot. And they were so far behind. The schedule was horrible. Uh, yeah, man. Puma's got a lot of work to do. That was a messy situation.
wow, wow. So tell me, at least with all that money, did they at least provide their own scorekeepers, or did they?
No, no, they didn't.
Oh, wow. Oh,
No, the parents were keeping this. The parents had to keep the scorebook, man, and the
oh
clock.
my
And so
God.
the clock was constantly messed. This is a national championship, man. Like this
Oh
is a
my
national
God.
tournament. The clock's constantly messed up. Listen, and you know how referees get at the end of the night. Imagine a referee at 11:30 start time.
Jeez.
So listen, one the Italy got called, which she one time she went down, and she goes down, and she doesn't get the call. Well, the very next time the girl goes, very similar play, and I said something to him, and he kind of gave me a look, and then the next time down, Uh, Italy's dribbling. They're hacking the heck out of her, hacking the heck out of her, and then he doesn't say anything, and he's like, and so then she goes in for the layup, and they call the foul, and he's like, "That's the one I'm going to call. I'm not calling it out there."
Oh wow,
So you're not calling it, so we can just hand check. So we can hack and hand check until they get to the rim to shoot. Because I
wow.
listen, if we can do that, then we can, let my daughter know because we can get her hacking out here.
Wow.
But it was crazy. But they wouldn't call floor on the floor calls. Is basically what he was telling me was that they wouldn't call on the floor calls. They'll call shooting fouls.
Wow. So we
Waiting to see if they
rugby.
were. It was crazy, man. It was because they were trying to rush the games. They were stopping games early.
Oh,
The first game we lost the first game. So the referee, I think we're down by like maybe 5 or 6,
right, right,
and the coach told our girls to foul,
right,
and so the girl goes to it's 25 seconds, 22 seconds or something like that on there. So the girl goes to foul, didn't call anything, so
oh,
she goes to foul her again, and I mean at this point, I'm like we're trying to foul.
right, right, right,
Didn't
right,
call
right,
anything. So finally, our girl pushed the girl, a little bit harder. I don't think it was too aggressive, but the
right,
other girl took it like it was aggressive. So she turned around and got mad. And our girl explained, he wasn't calling the foul. Now he called the last one.
right, right, right.
And because they bucked up in each other's face, he called the game. And I'm
Oh,
like, listen, man, we're only down by like 5 or 6, whatever it was. We're only down. We have a chance to still, if they miss these free throws, we got a shot. And he called the game because he said it was getting chippy. I said, because you didn't call the first intentional foul. She had to foul harder because you weren't calling the soft one.
I
You
can't
knew we were
imagine.
trying to foul. We're in the game. So yeah, it was a messy from top to bottom. The facility was okay. The facility was nice. I mean, the Orange County Convention Center in Orlando.
Right,
It
right,
was a
right.
nice facility, but other than that, man, that was it.
Wow, wow. Can I play that video of that long line? Like when we do the editing, can I put?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And that was a mess because so we here's where it benefited us a little bit. Well, actually, it didn't benefit because they got me. I was going to get the 1 day pass because I knew that we played on Thursday. We didn't play on Friday at all. So this is supposed to be a 4 day tournament.
Okay.
There were no games in our division on Friday and Sunday. So
Wow.
it was really a 2 day tournament, and you made us come to Orlando for 4.
Jeez.
So I get in there an hour early to my about an hour and 20 minutes early to my surprise and see that line. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I go stand in the back. And so then another line opens up, and we didn't even know what that line was. So we were like I put my son in that line, and it's like let's see which one gets there faster, or
Wow.
whatever. And I then my wife stays in another line, so that's when I get out and go record the line and send it to you. And finally, it's like 10 minutes till the game is supposed to start. And so I'm starting to panic. I'm like, man, I'm going to miss this thing. So the guy comes up with the weekend wristbands. Didn't have any day passes. Of
Uh,
course, he didn't have any day passes on him. And I'm like, man, my daughter's getting ready to play. I'll just take the weekend wristband or
right, right,
whatever.
right.
And I knew I was coming back on Saturday regardless. But it still would have been cheaper to get the day pass. But I
Right.
was like, man, I don't want to miss the game for you to go back or me get out of line or whatever. And so I do that. I go in the gym. We're an hour behind.
Oh. Wow.
So I could have man, that whole thing was just a mess, man. It was a complete mess.
Ah. Now, and this is a lesson for all the new parents who might be listening. For all tournaments, I really recommend that you get there at least an hour early. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
for every tournament, because you don't know what you're walking into. So you need to get there at least an hour early. And when I say an hour early, if the coach is asking for 30 minutes, for you to be 30 minutes before the game, I would say an hour before that.
Yeah.
Because on top of that, nowadays with the highway, you need to be there, because these highways are unpredictable,
Yeah.
and so you need to really be there an hour and a half early because you just don't know what you're running into.
Exactly. And in
Um,
Orlando's traffic was crazy. So I mean it was loaded down there. Couple basketball tournaments. And of course, the tourists. So
Yeah, and Coach Fowler, you didn't even count all the money you spent on pay tolls in Orlando.
The tolls, the hotel. I listen. I got smart. I bought lunch meat and sandwich stuff. For the hotel room. Y'all get hungry. This is what y'all eat. So we're not eating lunch, $100 lunches and $100 dinners and all that. So I was like, listen, this is what we're gonna eat. We'll go out and have dinner or whatnot. But if y'all get hungry, here, this is what you. This is a snack food for you.
Wow, that sounds like an adventure. That sounds like it. Well, here's one thing: y'all ain't never gonna forget that weekend.
I
Y'all,
will not forget that one. I will not. And I hope they fix it, man, because like the Puma circuit, there's some positives and negatives, man. Maybe that's a future topic or something about some of the circuits and some of the tournaments or whatnot. But that was I learned a lot playing in those three tournaments with Foundation. For Italy, with her playing in that, I learned a lot about the Puma circuit. So it was cool to at least learn some new stuff.
yeah, you would think that if it's a Nike or Puma, that A would be the most well run, and then you would also think that it would also be the cheapest because they're already killing you with the shoe prices.
But that's what I didn't understand was, man, it was, and I won't throw Nike into that conversation with Puma because Puma's new, so Nike may be perfectly fine. I haven't experienced that. I actually told my wife Tisha that we need to you know just to go to one just
Right.
to see what it's like, even if Italy's not playing in it, just to see what the Nike circuit is like, see what their tournaments are like. But I think this might for the shoe circuits right now. I just want to keep Puma in that one um, because I haven't seen as many complaints about the other ones as Puma got. Um, but yeah, you would think that it would be different, but it's not. Now USA runs tournaments, the like USA basketball,
Okay.
and they do cut prices, $5 a day to get in or something like that for parents.
Oh,
So
that's
if you're
cool.
paying, yeah, so for a weekend, like it's $15.
Mm.
Um, and that's probably how, those bigger companies should be since they're selling shoes and already got the money and whatnot. But nah, it's a money grab for them too.
Wow, wow, wow. Well, that sounds like an incredible adventure. Today, we're going to be talking about delusional parents versus parents with goals and high standards. And this is always a hot one in the AAU groups. You have two different minds of different people, and people go at it all the time. And you basically, the thought process is, or the argument is, should you even be bringing up D1, D2, D3 into the mind of a child? Should you even be talking about your goals? Should you even be mentioning such things that are so far off when the kids are younger? Because one perspective is that you make it known, make it aware, let people put it down. If you don't have a goal, you don't have direction, and if you don't have direction, how do you expect to get there? That's one perspective. And then there's another perspective that is so daunting. You're going to short circuit your kid. You're going to put too much pressure on them. Their head's going to explode because you put all of these high flaunting goals in front of your child, and they are still 11, 12 years old, and you can short circuit them that way. So that's the argument. And another thing, and this is very important, and this is how we can educate you and help you. It is important for everyone to know this percentage, and this percentage can change. Sometimes the studies say 1.3, sometimes they say 1.5, sometimes it even gives us 1.7. But whatever that percentage is, I'm stating the percentage of players that still play organized ball after high school. And it is tough to get in that number. Like in church, we used to sing that song, I want to be in that number. Well, we all, we want to be in that number. You want to be in that number, or you should want to be in that number if you want to make it. And here's the tough part about it. Here's the challenging part about it. With all the time that you spend on AAU, all of the money you spend on AAU, all of the 18 hours, 22 hours, 24 hours a weekend or for a week that you spend on AAU, all of the money that you put into trainers. If you're rich, maybe you can do all of that just for fun. If you're a millionaire, you can just do all of that for fun with no aspirational goals or nothing that's ahead. But for the rest of us, it's an investment. So we have to. That's the topic, and I understand. And to be honest with you, I am very strong on one side, but I respect. And I'll say this: some arguments to me are non-defensible. You can't defend them in my eyes. There's certain things I just, you know, there's certain issues out there that just, I don't see how you even make that. Uh, I won't say some of me and Coach Fowler have the same politics, but I won't say it because I don't want to tick off our viewers. But you know what I'm saying? There's certain things that we see that me and Coach Fowler see that there's certain political things we see. We're like, I don't see how there's certain things that's just wrong and just wrong as two left shoes. But this is not one of those issues. I respect both sides on this issue, and I've actually trying to change a little bit on one of my perspectives. I wrote down here as one of my show notes, share a personal anecdotal story about the importance of having realistic goals and standards. So, and before I kick it to Coach Fowler, I'll just say this: because I'm open minded, I can say this. Because I share goals with my daughters, and they know that daddy doesn't have the money to do this just for fun. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but most coaches have said that you have the most disciplined and focused daughters. They come to play and they come that like they don't waste time in practice. They don't mess around in practice. They come and they're locked in and they're focused because they know even and I say this, Coach Fowler probably knows where I'm coming from on this one. When we go to a camp, it kind of annoys my daughters when they have talent shows and all the other stuff. But they want to ball. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to do training, they want to ball, they want to scrimmage, they want all of this other cookies and cupcakes and all this other stuff at my kids want to ball because they understand dad has this goal and dad and mom have made this incredible investment. So that's on one side of this. Aries family, I'll even share. I'll make myself vulnerable. I'm not going to say which kid or which one of my babies or whatever, or while my kids have a trajectory where they're getting better and better and better, there have been times because the stakes in our household and because basketball is so important in my household where I'll be honest, one of my babies has short circuited a couple times. You know what I'm saying? Maybe twice. And it's because uh, that child knows just how important this is to dad, how important this is to mom, how important it is that we're in that 1.5%. Because literally, I look at it where it could be anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 worth of scholarship that that can be earned, that could be made if you hustle and if you work hard and if you stay at your craft. So I've laid out the pro and I've laid out the con. The con is, yes, twice I have been able to short circuit my babies accidentally. But the pro is because I've always put out goals, um, my babies have been a little bit more focused than the average kid out there. So, Coach Fowler, with all of that being said, I know I talked a lot, man, but
Oh, good.
I wanted to give you context and I wanted to lay it out, and I wanted just for you to be able to share your thoughts on this.
Well, with me, with all of my kids, it's kind of like, I ask straight up before we even start throwing money, time, you know, energy, you know, do you want to do this for fun or do you want to do this for real? And if you and whatever your answer is, it's fine.
Amen.
We're not going to judge you one way or another. But if you're all in, you best believe mom and dad are all in as well. And I will find every resource. I will hustle as much as I can to make sure financially we're able to do it. But I have to see. I always talk about because they're going to go into the real world, and I always talk about it. If you're ever looking for somebody to invest in anything you're doing, whether it's going to be basketball or whether it's going to be, a business you want to build or whatever, they're not just going to throw their money, their investment at you. unless they see that there could be a return. And I said, so as long as I'm seeing that return, I'll invest all day long. And I feel like, from Italy, we're definitely getting it. You know, but that's the thing is you have to decide up front. How do I want to do this? How do I want to navigate this? Because if you want to just play for fun and you want to be on your friend's team and this is a social thing for you, then that's how we'll approach it. And we can still do it, but it just can't be the same investment on our end. If that's what you want, if you want what you want to do, and with the AAU landscape, with these camps and the amount of money and time that you put into all of that combined to actually, because you have to do a little bit of everything really, to get your name out there. To because you're right. I think the number I actually pulled similar stats. It's 3.4% of high school basketball players, both male and female, will go and play in college. And then 0.09% will play in the WNBA, and the NBA similar number. So if you want to be that, it takes something completely different. I mean, you can't do what everybody else is doing if you want to be in a small percentage like that. Um, and everybody has the same 24 hours. And I probably say that to Italy every day. I probably say that to myself, to my wife, you know, when we're talking about things and when we feel like people, kind of hating on the tournaments or hating on, kind of the lifestyle we have where we travel a good bit and whatnot. And I always say, Italy, you know, those girls have the same 24 hours you have. You just use yours differently. And
Right.
I said, and if you want to continue to be better than the others, you have to continue to use your 24 hours differently than they are. If they catch up, if they start using their 24 hours the same way you are, you have to make another adjustment because you have to be different. And the same thing goes, with our tournaments, with how we use our money and how we travel and spend our time or whatnot. Everybody has the same 24 hours. I mean, you make moves. Me and my wife came from nothing. I mean, I bought a trailer off of my dad when me and my wife got started dating and whatnot. I was living in a little trailer that I had bought off my dad. We went and now are doing well for ourselves and able to travel and do things. And, it took work, but we had the same 24 hours everybody else did, and I'll go further more and I'll say, even Italy, you were, when you talk about goals and high standards and whatnot, I mean, Italy even went as far and kind of motivated me as well because I kind of have some more goals that I want to accomplish is she made a vision board.
Amen. Amen.
And I thought that was, and it's just out of the blue. Like, what are you doing, Ellie? She's in her room. She's got all this stuff all over the bed and everything. And she's laying there and she's like, I'm making a vision board.
That's
And
awesome.
I was like, wow, you know? And so that kind of blew me away, man. I mean, I just see how motivated she is. So it's easy to invest.
Amen. Amen. Now, one thing I've done so that and as a result of a recent poor performance in the championship game, and this is one thing that I've done so that I don't come off as a delusional parent, or I've reined myself in to not short circuit my kid. And there's like three things that and see if I can remember them because I don't have them in my notes, but it's just something that I just actually prayed about and came up with is I'm going to stop lifting one game up above another game. Because as kids at 11 years old, when we use the term championship game, okay,
Mhm.
you should be giving 100%. Every time there's a referee out there and there's a scoreboard, you should be giving 100% anyway. So I'm going to stop lifting up championship game over the other games. The second thing that I'm going to do to kind of um, to take the air out of the ball, so that my child doesn't get so ramped up because she is competitive and she wants to win. Um, is I'm gonna stop comparing or mentioning other kids. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes I can get into that comparison game because I'm thinking about that 1.5%, and I'm like, okay, what can we do to, what can we do to get you better than this player, and I'm gonna cut that out and do a lot better on that. And then the third thing I'm gonna do is, I think at least for my oldest, the goals can kind of be a little heavy on her. So what I want to start to do is I'm only going to mention the goals one time a year,
Mhm.
and make sure that she's locked in with me, that she still wants to do this. You know what I'm saying? That she
Yeah.
still that she still believes in this, because really this came from her initially. I'm just helping her get what she told me that she wanted to do. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So those are three things that I'm going to do to kind of take the air out of the ball. But I will, and this is an analogy I can, and this is a very trifling analogy for a pastor to come up with, but I ain't been saved my whole life. Amen. So, but when people say, oh, you're delusional if you think you're going to be mentioning D1 around your kid and blah, 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 blah. Well, here's the analogy I came up with. And it's a trifling, but I got saved at 25 years old, Brother Fowler. So
Gotcha.
this is analogy that's prior to me being 25, all right? Is when I would dress up for the club, I did not dress up for the club to go and bag a six. You know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna go and if I'm working on the bench press, I'm all out of shape now. But I'm talking about when I'm working on the bench press and I'm putting on $300 worth of clothes and I'm putting on some cologne and I'm shaving and I'm doing all I can to get gussied up to go to the club, and I'm spending $25 to get up in there. I don't go there for a six. I
I
go there
hear you.
and I'm praying for a 10. Now here's the thing: at 2 in the morning, you see what I'm saying? The six starts looking like a 10. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I use that trifling example because, yeah, once a year I might mention to my kid that, yeah, we have D1 hopes. You know what I'm saying? We have D1 dreams. But here's the thing: it takes the same amount of energy. You gotta you gotta give it your all. You know what I'm saying? You got, like, it's gonna take 20 hours of training a week, and it's gonna take, studying game tape. It's gonna take learning new things about your position. It's gonna take, even going, like, I'm gonna even go to like a referee school. I'm gonna go to that NCAA school so that I can try to give my daughter the competitive advantage. So if I end up with just D3 assistants, because they don't, I heard you could correct me on this, but D3, they don't give you scholarships, they give you assistance, they give you financial assistance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's aid.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not,
But if
nothing athletic. Nothing athletic
right, right. But if I get my baby's financial aid at D3 level and I shot for D1 and we only got financial aid at the D3 level, then it's worth it to me.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So like that I use that as an example is I left the club with a six. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I shot for, I went there looking for the 10, you know what I'm saying? But I got the six. And I share that because um I don't understand the mindset of folks who say, well, we're gonna work all of this hard, we're gonna put all of this in there, and then we're gonna pretend like we're only doing this for fun.
Yeah.
Saying like I don't get it. What's your thoughts, man?
I'll say the thing is, I mean, there's a quote out here that, um, anybody that's ever given their all has never regretted it, but
Amen.
people have regretted not giving their all.
Amen.
So I mean, if you're gonna go for it and that's what you want, why not? And I'm a super strong believer that words have power. Uh, we were
That's
put
right.
on this, and I'm not gonna go super biblical and everything, but I've been watching this sermon series on words and the power they have. And when we were put here, when Adam was put here, he was put here to speak to the earth, and the earth was to react. The
Hmm.
earth didn't change.
That's right.
Adam changed
Right.
because he broke the rules.
Right.
So the earth still, I still believe that the earth, in ways still responds to your words.
Mm.
And so I feel like that's the energy you want to put out there. You
That's right.
know, I want to go to. I'm going Division One.
That's right.
And the more you're speaking that, you're also encouraging yourself. You're also motivating yourself, and you're also that when I'm saying I'm going Division One, I mean I'm out here. This is what I got to do to go Division One. And again, you're right. I mean, if you're not one of those ones that ends up going Division One because it's difficult. I mean, it's only getting harder. Transfer portal, you know the rules changing daily, and all this other stuff. I mean, it makes it more difficult now. So you really have to be, on top, to get there. But even if you fall up short, I mean, the opportunities are still there. And
Right.
even if you go Division Three, I mean, there's kids transferring up from Division Two and Division Three uh, to Division One through the transfer portal. It's another small number, but it's still happening. So I mean, the opportunities are still there. But yeah, I'm with you on that, man. If you fall up short, I mean, if you're aiming for three and you fall up short, then you end up with nothing. So I mean, I'd go for one, and if you fall up short, you end up with D2 or D3. So.
That's right. And oh man, I almost don't. You tell me if you want me to edit this out, because I'm not trying to be insulting to some of the but my in this journey we have traveled to some of the D3 colleges, and and we've even learned from D3 players in a lot of different instances. And don't get me wrong, like, so let me give you an example. Courtney's current head coach, her skill level is amazing, and it kind of makes me wonder, like, wow, she was D3, she looks like she's D1. You know what I mean? But then there's other D3 athletes that I've seen that, in a way, they're I've seen their play, and I'm like, I have faith my kid can do that. You see what I'm saying? Um, it's not something that when you see D1 athletes play, there's a speed there, and there's a next game, I mean next play mentality, and there's just the level there is just so incredible. When you watch it, you kind of understand why they are the elite of the elite. But then, when I've seen D3 athletes play, I think that's attainable, and maybe I'm delusional there, and I'm not trying to say it's easy. It's going to be easy. I'm not saying that at all. I want to say that two more times. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that at all. But when I see kids who are practicing now, 20 hours a week when they're 10 and 11 years old, I do think that D3 is attainable. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So I do hope for something a little bit more than that. But if we shoot for the moon, you know what I'm saying, and we end up on D3, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be fine. Does that sound crazy for me to say?
Listen, that's where some people are delusional, man, because they look at it as like Division Three is a failure.
Right,
They feel like JUCO sometimes is a failure.
right,
There's some dudes, when I say dudes, them girls and guys that play JUCO that is, I mean, they're high major Division One that may have just fallen short academically. I mean, they're if you play college basketball, you can hoop
yes, right,
because uh, Division Three is very competitive as well. I mean, you may find a couple Division threes here or there where, it's, you know, there's some guys that maybe, guys or girls that maybe probably shouldn't be on there. Some rosters do have like 20 kids. Division Three is a little bit different in that regard. Um, but Division Three is not to be slept on either, man. I mean, that's a high level of basketball. You
right,
know,
right,
I
right.
mean,
And
Division Three, Division Three, Division Two, Division One. If you make it to one of those, if you make it, even if you go JUCO, you'll realize it's a different level of basketball, and everybody can play.
amen, amen. To coincide with your thoughts about words, and also to coincide with this, kind of speaks to more the delusional parent side, that perspective.
Mhm.
I was listening to a man who is the offspring of your favorite coach, Bobby Knight. Okay, uh,
Uh-huh.
I was listening to Coach K, and the repost I had is, he said, "Your nervous system borrows belief from the people you sit next to."
Hmm.
And I thought that was so dope. And it was something that I need to improve on because sometimes I can have a little bit of a nervous spirit, and I don't want that to jump onto my daughters. I want them to be calm, cool, collect, ready, ready for the game, having full belief in themselves. I don't want my little childhood dramas and traumas to impact them at all. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, but it was dope because I heard Coach K. He had this incredible story, and I think he was talking about Grant Hill. It didn't talk. The video clip did not name the athlete, but I think he was talking about Grant Hill.
Uh-huh.
He said that he called Grant Hill, and Grant Hill had already been a starter, like for his freshman year. And he goes and tells Grant Hill, he says, "Are you ready to be the ACC Player of the Year next year?" And Grant Hill started hemming and hawing, and then he just hung up the phone on him. And then, and then he called him a second time, and he said, they're talking and talking and talking because it was during the summertime, and Grant Hill was doing an internship somewhere. And then he said, "Are you ready to win the national championship?" And Grant Hill started hemming and hawing and started like saying words of disbelief. And then Coach K hung up on him. And then like they called the third time, and Grant Hill started to get a little swole. He said, "All right, Coach, don't hang up on me again." And then Coach K said, "I'll stop hanging up on you when you stop hanging up on yourself."
Hmm.
And I thought that was pretty dope. Where Coach K had these delusional goals and beliefs for Grant before Grant had any belief of what he could do.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need someone to believe in you. And I can even say it wasn't about basketball, but my wife drastically changed my life because I had someone that finally believed in me.
Hmm.
You see what I mean? And when you have someone that believes in you, um, it can truly change your life. So having those delusional parents, people can talk about delusional parents in a negative way. Someone should believe in you. Now they talk about, one of our notes here was the play for fun mindset, and and I want to be, I want to be clear as well. I want my kids to have fun, but I think fun can be a byproduct of purpose,
Hmm.
and it's not the primary. It's not the fun should not be the primary goal. Like you can go to the job, and both of us work 9 to 5 jobs. We have fun on the job, but the purpose of the job is not to have fun. The purpose is to, in your case, to make money, educate kids, you know what I'm saying, and inspire kids. And, I have a different type of job. We can have a purpose, but uh, the purpose to a lot of things in life is not necessarily to have fun. Fun is what you have along the way. But what are your thoughts on that, Coach Fowler?
That's 100% along the line of what I believe with it is you have to decide what you want out of basketball.
Right.
You know, if you want it, and this is exactly what my notes say, if you want it to be a job, then you're going to have to accept that every day is not going to be fun.
Right.
I think a good story to mention right here is, I don't know if you've seen Steph Curry's underrated documentary. Uh,
Yes. Yes.
but in that documentary, it talks about when he was starting to grow a little bit. He was still smaller, but he shot from his hip. And his dad, Dell Curry, one of the greatest shooters in the NBA, is telling him, "You have to change your shot. If you're serious, you're telling me that you want to play college basketball. If you're serious about playing college basketball, you have to change your shot." Which means that you're not going to play summer basketball this year. You're going to get out and you're going to work on changing your shot and getting your form right. And it goes on to talk about how he, at first was all excited about it until he realized, wait a minute, this is not fun.
Right.
I'm
Right.
sitting out here for hours every day just shooting the same shot over and over and over and over to try to get the muscle memory, try to get the form right. And he finally went to his mom, and his mom said, "Listen, if you want to just be an average player, if you just want to continue to play the way you've been playing, and let's see what happens, that's fine. But if you want to buy into what your dad's saying, who knows the game, who shoots the ball well, then and want to play at the next level, then you need to listen to what your dad says." and he went back out there, changed his shot, and came out next season and you know was a completely different player.
Right.
And it wasn't fun, but he knew what he wanted out of it.
Right.
And so that's the way I look at it. You have to decide if I want it to be fun. We can find a fun little league for you to play in where everybody gets to play same amount of minutes, you know, and this and that. But if you want it to be a job, just like any job, there's no job that's equal opportunity. You know, you get out of these things what you put into them. So most of the time. I mean, sometimes you can, you know, some people get raises they don't deserve, or get things they don't deserve. But in basketball, I'm a strong believer. You have the same 24 hours. You get out of it what you put into it, and if you want it to be a job, that's the mindset you have to have.
Amen. I will say this. Here's the only way me and Coach Fowler are wrong. Here's the only way we're wrong. We've got guards. All right. Our three baby girls are guards. Um, if you got a 7 foot, 300 pound monster, he can have fun probably. You know what I'm saying? If you got a 7 foot guy, you know what I'm saying, or a 6 foot 6 girl, y'all can have fun. You see what I'm saying? And even then, you need to limit the amount of fun that you're having. You
Yeah.
can't have nothing but fun. And the reason why I say that is I was thinking about all the greats, like the top 20 players of all time. There's only one guy on that top 20 that I can say had a whole bunch of fun, and it was Shaq. You
Yeah.
know, like even though Magic was smiling, Magic was, he was a straight demon competitively. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he even when you hear him talk about competition, him and Isaiah had something in common. They would both smile at you and then cut your throat.
Yep.
So all of those guys, and especially when you go to the girls side of WNBA, like people are surprised by how physical the WNBA is. You know what I'm saying? It's,
Mhm.
it's, it's not fun can be had, but there's a lot of purpose. There's a lot of focus. There's a lot of grittiness that takes place, and fun is the byproduct that you have on the bus after you done won. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I just thought I'd share that. And then here's the thing as well. Here's where I think there's a different perspective. I told my daughter, I was like, hey, listen, if dad hit the lottery and I've got $500 million in the bank, um, you can play for fun. Like,
Right.
because literally, here's what people don't understand. I don't like to calculate it, Coach Fowler, because then it'll get in my head too much.
Mhm.
But I just did a very brief calculation in my head just now. We spend around $6 grand a year. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In basketball on one, really on two athletes. So that's that's a significant, that's a car payment. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's a nice car payment. So I just share that with you is, if you're, and yeah, my kids sometimes they play with wealthy families, and those wealthy families they can afford to just be out there and just giggle and just have a ball all practice long, and they're doing wet willies at the back of the layup line and all this other stuff. You can do that if you've got $500 million in the bank. You can do that.
Mhm.
I am not independently wealthy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't have that. I'm still working, even at age 52. So I have to tell my kids like, hey, listen, fun is a byproduct. Now I will say this is speaking against the delusional parent. Um, I have seen. Here's where I think delusional parents can go wrong. Um, and let me give you two instances, and you can go and jump in, Coach Fowler. I saw there was one gentleman who he was playing his daughter where she seemed like she was getting a lot of injuries and she was hurt and she was playing hurt all the time and she was getting really beat up, and then he kept having her play up, and she, like, every time I would see her on the court, she's like running with a limp, and she's always getting busted up. And in an effort to be quote unquote tough, he just kept putting her in those situations. And I think sometimes delusional parenting can lead to counterproductivity of what you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you can grind them into dust. I believe in grinding, but you can grind them into dust. And the second thing of delusional parenting that can really hurt you, and it's hurt me before, and I'll just share this story. It happened at the same place you host yours, but it was hosted by by the other guy in your area,
Mhm.
and he hosted a tournament, and we were at the tournament, and then all of a sudden, last minute, I get the call for that there's going to be a 3-point contest, and my daughter won the 3-point contest, and then when I went back and when I told the other daughter's father, we were all on the same team, when I told him that my daughter won the 3-point contest, he automatically asked the question, "Well, did you rebound for my daughter? Did you help her?" And like, I didn't really help my daughter, or I wasn't involved at all. I just was cheering both kids on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wasn't, I didn't jump in and rebound for Courtney, and I didn't jump in and rebound for the other, for the other girl. I just was like, "Yay, you did it!" I was just a cheerleader on both cases, and that parent who was so delusional, it was like when Courtney started to started to have some achievements where she did better than that child sometimes. He's so delusional that it was like it created a rift between me and him.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes if you're so delusional that you can create bad teamwork.
Yeah.
And you gotta be aware, even if you think that your kid should get I have to ask myself this question, of course I would love it where my kid got 25 shots a game. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But here's the thing, you have to also ask yourself this question. Do you want 8 kids to be able to travel with your daughter to be able to play in a tournament? Because if you can't get 8 kids that want to play with your daughter, then you're not going to be able to get any runs in.
Yeah.
And the rest of those kids, they're not NPCs. They're not your NPCs. You see what I'm saying? Non-programmable or non-playable characters or whatever.
Mhm.
There's the little ones that are on the Mario Kart that they're not. They're just a computer generated, and they're not even
Uh-huh.
real people. Sometimes you can be such a delusional parent that you think the other kids are just your kids' NPCs,
Yeah.
and you got to realize that there's other people out there that they have hopes and dreams for their kids as well. And just because they do good, that doesn't mean that that's something bad for your daughter.
Yeah.
But sometimes this delusional parenting can hurt from that perspective. Have you ever experienced that, Coach Fowler? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Man, we've experienced that so much. Um, it's almost crazy. You know, we've actually just like we've lost friends along the way where we consider them to kind of be friends. We travel, we spend time together and things like that. And, I think some of the biggest delusions there is that your daughter can't be successful, uh, and my daughter still shine, you
Right,
know,
right,
because it feels so weird because we always cheer. I even made a post one time on Facebook, and that's why I prefer this platform because I don't like to comment on other people's stuff and go back and forth with them and whatnot. But I made a post about we cheer the loudest for you know other people's kids, and then we see the hate and the jealousy when ours shines. When ours finally does something, you know, that gets them a little bit of shine. I see that so often, and it's sad. I feel like that's why the team that Italy played for last year broke up because none of the parents on that team wanted to see anybody else do well.
right, right,
And it's
right.
like, but they were all super talented. But if somebody else did well, it seemed like there was so much jealousy, and if they watch this and I'm wrong, reach out, let's square it away. But at the same time, it's like, that team could have been so good parents would have put their prides to the side because I feel like the players were feeding off of it too. This player couldn't stay in the game longer than another player, you know, uh, because even if that player was playing better than you, because my mama says I'm better than that, better than, and it was just so much of that, and even Italy at a camp one time, they stopped the whole camp. I was really trying to teach Italy, and it was perfect that it happened the way it happened. So she was at a exposure camp, and I'm telling her, listen, you have to bring the energy. I'm always, what are you doing that somebody else isn't doing? Because that's what they're going to recognize. You bring the energy, you clapping up, you helping, players, you dap everybody up as they finish the drill. You know, if somebody else has to run, you run with them, encouraging them while you're running. Somebody's doing push-ups, that you do them too. That's an opportunity for you to get stronger. Don't let them get stronger. Um, but that's also showing leadership as well. Well, she goes into this camp. We're 10 minutes into the camp. They stopped the whole thing, and they're like, "Wait a minute, we've never done this before." But uh, we're getting ready to give out an award to one of the girls here that's just bringing so much energy and bringing so much positivity and this and that, and gave Italy an award for that.
That's awesome.
I feel like some of the people that were the closest to her, because she had some teammates there, some of the people that were the closest to her hated on her the most for getting that, and it was like you could have done the same thing,
Right, right,
but it goes back to the delusion you're talking about there that if you do something well, that takes away from my shine. That's not true.
right,
Uh, and she the middle school team that she played for, we've transferred her. She's not going to go to the school anymore. Not just because of this experience, but basketball was a major part of that. First of all, our school eighth graders typically get pulled up to JV, so we are left with sixth and seventh graders and maybe some of the weaker eighth graders. And so there's kids that are making the team that shouldn't even be making the team because we have to fill the roster,
right,
and and teams not very successful year in and year out. Started the year off and beat a team they hadn't beaten in 5, 6 years.
right,
I mean, I'm a brag on my baby for a little bit. I mean, she put on a show. I mean, she killed it, and she did well. And some of the parents seem to be like, "Oh man, this is going to be an exciting season. I love watching her play this and that." But you can see some of the other ones kind of like, you know,
right, right,
maybe one or two that had been on the team and
right,
that were seventh graders, kind of looking at it like, you're not. This is my team this year. What you talking about? Come in, see no sixth grade. They're going to steal the shine here,
right,
and for the rest of the year, it was a constant decline to the point. By the end of the season, we were just, "Phew, thank goodness, get out of here. Yeah, it's over." But
right,
it was so much illusion that you couldn't shine by playing with somebody that was going to score and help win like y'all are winning. Why are you upset? And you played well also. You just no, you're not the same level player that Italy is.
right.
But just get better. You had the same 24 hours, you know. So
Absolutely.
I see it all the time, man. And I could go listen. I could take up a whole nother podcast on just this topic right there. The delusion of some people, and the hate that they give when they think that they're higher level than what they really are, and think they're on the same level as somebody else, and you know, or just the example that you gave where Courtney beat her, man.
Right.
I mean, get bitter or get better. That's how I look at it. And
Amen.
it just because Courtney to look at it as that Courtney won because you helped her.
Right, 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 right.
Y'all teamed up. Y'all teamed up and beat my daughter. I think I know who you're talking about. By the way,
Yeah.
I think I know who you're talking
And,
about.
and it really annoyed me, man, because I was like, man, like, because I guess the reason why it annoys me is this, and here's why I'm a basketball purist. When Courtney, and since I'm saying something this is not the kid. This is I'm gonna say this two more times. This is not the kid. This is a separate kid because I'm gonna say something positive.
Mhm.
Um, there's a kid that Courtney loves, and that I love her family and I love this kid that we played with. Her name was Mackenzie,
Mhm.
and Mackenzie could jump out the gym. She's incredibly athletic, and you know, I was honest. I tried not to be delusional. I tried to be like, hey, Courtney, you are her Steve Kerr. You know what I'm saying? You are her. Like you got to get in where you fit in. And for now, you know what I'm saying? You are accompanying her. She's the star. You know what I'm saying? And we've got to, you're shooting accompanied with. Mackenzie could do everything, but Mackenzie a lot of times will go down low because she just had that athleticism. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, y'all two can work together. And I became just as big of a fan of Mackenzie than I did my own child. And I won't say the name of this other kid that we recently played with, but because I'm not that close with the family, and but I'll say this: there was another kid, a very talented kid that Courtney was playing with, and while I wasn't close with the family off the court, this kid on the court had these incredible hand. Like Courtney was playing with this kid that played like Luca. You see what I'm saying? Like, and literally had handles like Luca and had a shot like Luca and just had this feel of the game and was this finisher. So guess what? If you're playing with my, I'm gonna root for you.
Yeah.
Courtney gets mad at me. I love basketball so much. Courtney gets mad at me sometimes because if someone does something dope on the other team, you know what I'm saying, and it's not like really that close, you know what I mean, and I'm gonna cheer. I'm gonna be like, yeah, that was, you're an 11-year-old and you just did
Yeah.
something dope on the basketball court. So guess what? I'm gonna even cheer for those kids on the other team. Now, if the game is close or something, I'm not gonna do that. But I'll restrain myself if the game is close. But I just don't have that in me to be hating on somebody else's kid or to even. I tell you what, this is a little off topic, but this has to do with delusional parents as well. It ticked me the heck off. Um, Yes, there was someone on our team that sometimes when they're dribbling, they sometimes go like this when they're dribbling. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And it's a little iffy. Like how the slant of the how much they do it.
Mhm.
And then this parent of the other team starts giving this whole dissertation of how this kid is carrying the ball and we're in the game and the ref whatever he's seeing, the refs ain't calling it.
Yeah.
So I was this close, but I was like, no, I don't want to get no, I don't want to get. First of all, he's not talking about my kid, but second of all, I don't want to create a scene. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But to me, I don't talk about nobody else's kid when I don't talk about no other kid's game or whatever. Even if I see something that might be a little close, unless I'm close to those parents, then I might pull the parents aside and say, "Hey, have you thought about this?" Or
Mhm.
But I have to be really close with those parents before I would ever say anything.
Yeah.
And then just to be running your mouth on the side of the court talking about someone else's kid's game, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's lucky that the wrong person did not hear that. You know what I mean? Because it could have, that kind of stuff can escalate real quick. So, I don't like that. I keep my comments positively about my kid, and then even when we get in the van, I'll go and tell my kid, "Hey, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you did this wrong, but I love you," and, whatever. But some of these delusional parents, they start flapping the gums at the wrong time. It can really be problematic. What do you think about guys like that who make those kind of commentaries on someone else's kid?
I actually had to say something to a parent from our team,
Right,
uh, middle school team. Like, listen, don't talk to her. Don't say anything because Italy wears her emotions on her sleeve. She's getting much better about that now.
right.
She's starting to realize, and I'll explain this point in a minute of why she's starting to realize that because it goes along with something you said earlier. But so she was kind of showing her emotions on her sleeve or whatnot. She wasn't talking to anybody in uh, specifically or whatnot, but the parent said something, to her, and I had to immediately I was already fired up from that season anyway, and I had this, don't say anything, don't talk to her.
Right, 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 right.
At that time she was 11. I said, she's 12 now, but she was 11, and I said that's an 11-year-old girl. You don't need to talk to her.
Amen. Amen.
So, but and then there was another parent, and I try to be as discreet as possible. But I've heard a parent call girls on another team the B word,
Oh, wow.
and it's like if
Wow.
I'm waiting to see like which parents are getting ready to get up and come over this way
Wow.
because I don't have your back. I'm out of here.
No, no, no,
Because
no.
I don't agree with what you just said. And so if
No.
somebody comes over here, I hope you don't think that I have your back right now. Because
That goes along with our previous episode about choosing the right AAU team because you do feel a bond with these parents, and then if they do something stupid and they get jumped or something, then you are stuck in that situation. Then you got to ask yourself the question: do you want to get in trouble with your job because you got a parent who's a knucklehead who over here?
at that point, I was so thrown off. It was kind of like, and no way. I was disgusted. That changed like our kind of how we saw this person completely.
Right,
I
right,
mean, we started distancing ourselves at games and whatnot as well from everybody, just because we didn't want to make it look like we were singling these people out. But it's just like, man, I can't, I don't believe in that. If somebody did that to my daughter, man, that's humiliating.
no.
So
I
uh,
wouldn't even do that at the pro level. You know what I'm saying?
no,
Like,
I mean that's not. I mean, come on, man, you're there to watch the game.
yeah,
You don't need that type of stuff is crazy, man. Uh, but yeah, so but just go back real quick on when Italy wearing her emotions on her sleeve. You had mentioned earlier about not putting so much pressure on certain games and whatnot. I just kind of put it out there to Italy, and I'm like, Italy, it doesn't the winning the championship doesn't matter. If that mattered, then only the state championship would have kids recruited. The
amen.
team that win the state championship would have kids recruited. Only the kids who win the Nike Peach Jam would have kids recruited, or you know what the finals of the other shoe circuit, the championships for those or whatnot. I said, so it's not about winning and losing. Yes, she's super competitive. I said, but you never know who's watching any game. You never know who's watching you while you're eating at a restaurant.
Right,
You don't know who's staying in your hotel. I said, so you never know who's watching. They see those kids running up and down the hallway in the hotel just as much as they see those kids running up and down the basketball court at the gym. You know, you don't know which college coach is watching you, or what scouting service is watching you, what person period is watching you, and see you bless somebody else, and that changes how what they might do. I said, so you always have to approach everything like somebody might be watching,
right,
and so whether it's the first game of the tournament or the championship game of the tournament, whether it's you eating dinner, whether it's how you handle yourself in a stressful situation. Somebody might be watching to see how you handle it, and that could change everything. And I said, you don't know which opportunity is the opportunity.
that's right.
Whatever you could be, whatever game you could be playing in, wherever they see you. I've heard. I got a job one time, a better job because I used my free time the right way, and the person who was hiring for the higher position saw me using my free time productively,
Right,
and gave and wanted me to work for them because they saw that I used my free time productively. So I told her, I said, I didn't even know that person watched me, saw me, knew who I was.
right,
I said, so your whole life can change on one opportunity, and you don't know which opportunity it is, and somebody could be watching, and you don't know it. So that's how I approach that situation. So there's not any more pressure on one game over any other game. It's you know your approach should always be the same because you never know which opportunity is the opportunity.
that's right. That's awesome. That's great. That's great. That's great knowledge for our listeners there. When it comes to finding balance, your kids being able to enjoy basketball and keep it moving. Because I will say this: there's certain things that I do while we have all of these goals. Um, there's certain things I do just because I know it's going to help both of my kids keep the joy.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like um, matter of fact, I hope he doesn't hear this and think the wrong thing. All of my trainers are awesome, but there's one trainer that if he doesn't do anything, he installs a level of joy into my kids about playing basketball. You see what I'm saying? Like he reignites the joy and he creates a smile, and he helps them find their fun again after even after a tough tournament and
Absolutely.
a tough experience. So yeah, you do have to do certain things to balance. But one thing that I've recently tried to do is I told Courtney I don't have to worry about this with Nadia as much because Nadia is just built different. You know what I'm saying? But Courtney can get a little too wound up. Um, I told her write your goals in pencil, but then write the habits that you need to accomplish those goals. Write those in pen, and focus on the habits. Don't focus on the goals. The goals are directional. They're necessary to help you know like why you're doing what you're doing and the overall general direction. But the habits are going to be the things you have to focus on. Am I doing these things on a daily basis? And if you focus on the habits, the goals will take care of themselves.
Mhm.
And sometimes you may need to readjust goals so that you can have to readjust your habits. But if you stay focused on the habits, you can. It's going to be easier to find that joy. But if you stay focused on just the goals, then that's where some misery can take place. Because sometimes as Mike Tyson says, everyone got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
and when that goal shifts, then you can get really sad and really depressed, and it can really get to you. I think as well when we separate parents from delusion to parents with goals and high standards. Um, I think here's one way to kind of think about it. You have to think about that 1.5%, or there's one study said 3%. Uh, and you have to also think about the time that your child has left,
Hmm.
and understand the growth mindset is the third element to this. Because with the growth mindset, I do believe you can change. With time and training and hard work, you can change a lot. But then the growth mindset, you can change a lot, but then you only have so much time before that senior year. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So growth mindset is true. I believe in the growth mindset. I've seen miracles with the growth mindset. There's some girls that I saw 3 years ago when Courtney first started playing that I never imagined that they would become great, not great, but really good basketball players.
Hmm.
And they put the work into it, and they just blow my mind when I see them at tournaments
Yeah.
because they could barely put their foot in front of them, one foot in front of the other when they were 7, and now they're 11, and they're just doing incredible at the tournaments. So you can do incredible things with the growth mindset, but then you have to ask yourself, how much time do you have?
Hmm.
And I think you have to also be aware if your goal is for your kid to play after the senior year, there's that 1.5% that hangs out there for you, and you have to be honest with yourself about do I have enough? Does my kid have enough time? Do they you know with the growth mindset we can change a lot, but do we have enough time in order to make? And I think that's where you move from delusion to realistic goal. Because if you just show up at 16 years old and you're uh, and you're not athletic and you're in basketball and you don't have a basketball player's body and you just show up at 16, I think that's it's kind of delusional at that point. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're 7 foot,
Hmm.
or unless you're at least 6'8" or something. If you show up at 16, then that's a lot of delusion. Think that you're going to be able to get there in 2 years. I don't. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but
Well, you're competing against people who nowadays, it's almost like you have to play year round. They talk about, oh, play other sports, and I think it is important to play other sports because it teaches you different footwork.
right.
It causes you to use different muscles and things like that. But when you're competing against people who are basically playing year round, I mean, uh, no, I mean, you can't show up. that late in the game. I don't believe, like, unless, like you're saying, unless you're gifted with size or ridiculous athleticism, or whatever, or both. And then I can teach you how to play basketball,
Right,
but I
right.
can't I can't make you a freak athlete, and I can't you know make you taller. So if you already have those things, I can teach you how to play basketball. So
Amen.
the coaches will look at it that way.
Right.
Uh, but you're right, man. I mean, and it's delusional to believe that you have a lot of time, because that's where a lot of people make mistakes. It goes a lot faster than what you think it is. I know we're looking right now at Italy. She is 6 years left for graduation. And it's like, man, 6 years, it'll be gone. I remember saying that with my son, my
Amen.
oldest son, and he graduated last year. So,
Right.
it goes that quickly.
5 summers, man.
You're right. Exactly.
Five
Exactly.
AAU summers. So especially it goes fast when you're playing year round almost, you know. So,
Yeah.
that
It all runs together and then it's gone.
that's right. That's right. That's right. So with that being said, we just kind of want to recap. Uh, there is a distinction. You can become too delusional, and you can put things on your kids that and make things heavy for them. Um, but at the same time, you do need to have enough goals where your kids understand the family's objective and
Hmm.
that everything is not. And if you're a millionaire, disregard what we're saying. Okay, if you got a million in the, matter of fact, if you got 5 million in the bank, disregard what we're saying because you can afford $6,000, $6,000 a year, and it's no big deal to you. But for the rest of the folks who are working class. Which is probably going to be 90% of the people, 95% of the people that are watching this podcast. I think your kids do need to understand the goals, but what we're talking about is balance. If you put it too heavy on your kid, it can start to be counterproductive because the bottom line is you want to get them to the wherever you're trying to get them to, whether it's D3, D2, D1, JUCO, whatever it is, wherever you're trying to get them, you don't want to be counterproductive, and you can't put so much on them that they start short circuiting. So with that being said, though, I think you gotta. There's a scripture in the Bible. I'm not trying to be overly religious, but it talks about counting the costs. You said, "What man builds a tower without counting the cost of what it's going to take to build that tower?"
Hmm.
And you need to count the costs. We're talking at least $6,000 a year. Sometimes more depending on what team you're part of, and
Hmm.
and also traveling and going to places all over the country. Hotel bills and everything else. It can be more than $6,000. It could be. I've seen parents that have spent $12,000 a year. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's an art to this, man. To save money, there's an art to navigating this thing. If you're trying to, because it can rack up real quick.
Yes, yes. So you got to be able to let your kid know that hey, this is serious, but at the same time, you don't want to get so serious that they're thinking and they have the weight of the world on their shoulders where they can't compete and they can't focus. So I think that's the balance. Always kind of remember growth mindset, time, 1.5%. You got to balance those three things. And I know this podcast can be difficult for people from this perspective. We don't typically do well with balance. We do well with like hardcore one way or hardcore the other way. And that's how people are. They want it black or they want it white, and I think the answer that we kind of are telling folks out here is, yeah, you should have delusional, you should have big hopes and dreams, not delusional. You should have big hopes and dreams, but then also you have to kind of as well be careful how you share that and be careful how you communicate that to your kid. And you have to also kind of look at what you're dealing with. Look at the games,
Hmm.
look at the games are a report card to you. The games are a report card, and sometimes you get a good report card. That there's times I'll say this: there's times where my kids have walked into the gym and they're in that 1.5% of kids that's their age, and then just recently I went into a championship game and my kid was like maybe 7 out of 24. There's 24 kids there. You know, my kid was probably seventh. You know what I'm saying? You know, so you get those moments of humility where you're like, ooh, ooh, you
But
know.
I think it, but and you're making a good point here because I think a part of the delusional topic should discuss when you're delusional to the point where you're hurting your kid because uh, you believe that they're better than what they are, and it's great to speak words of encouragement and to lift them up and whatnot. But when you have them, when they start sharing your delusion on their how good they are, I think it's important to you can't judge yourself based off of just where you live.
Right,
You're not competing with just kids in your area for scholarships and to play at the next level. That's not how any ranking systems work or anything like that. You can't believe that your child is the next big thing, and everywhere you go or every camp you go to or whatever, they're getting overlooked.
right,
And then you're mad at the camp, like they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know basketball, you know, or you think your kid's on a level as another kid, and the other kid's constantly getting recognized, and your kid's not, and you're hating on that kid just because that kid is being recognized and your kid is not. You have to, at that point, you have to start being realistic and saying, hey, maybe I don't know what I think I know. You
right,
know,
right, right,
if there's a kid on the team that's just kind of, every team you go to, there's always your kid's not getting playing time. You
right.
know, you could bounce all day long, your kid's not getting playing time. You believe your kid's the best player on the team. You're being delusional. You
That's
have to you have to fix that aspect of it too, because humble yourself, like you said just a while ago. I mean, I felt like that was that a great note to people parents who are trying to navigate the basketball world is sometimes you might be humbled, and you have to accept it. And what's the next steps? Okay, maybe we aren't where we thought we were. What do we need to do?
that's right. That's right. And every time we get, I call every game as a report card. And every time we get a bad report card, we make a training change.
Hmm.
And because I'm like, oh, we got to adjust something.
Yeah.
You know, what do we need to adjust? What do we need to adjust with dribbling? What do we need to adjust with shooting? What do we need to adjust with sleep? What do we need to adjust with nutrition? What do we need to adjust? Because you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
I think sometimes folks, um, they get the report card and then they don't want to deal with that report card. You know, like they don't want to come to the reality. Like, okay, uh, sometimes the report card can smack you in the face and can tell you like, okay, you need to make some changes. And that's the beautiful thing about those games. You know that they you can train with cones all you want to, but the games show you what happens when you play with the bones. You
Yep.
know? And it's a brutal reality, you know. And like you said, I'll say this: it can be a drastic change when you travel.
Hmm.
It's a drastic
Yep.
change. Uh, I'll probably edit this part out because I don't want anyone getting mad. Because I want anyone when I say this, I want everyone to understand I am not talking about race, okay? But what I'm talking about is suburb versus hood. Because
Mhm.
you can be different races and be in the hood, and you can be different races and be in the suburb. You know what I mean? So I'm not talking race, y'all, just so y'all know. But like there, even when you play, like the hood plays one way, and then the suburbs play a totally different way. And you can be really good suburb players and then be really good hood players and be totally different. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a different style of play.
So let me. I'll just followed up with this, man, because the high school that I teach at,
Uh huh.
I think last year lost two regular season games.
Right.
They lost to the eventual state champion. Um, that was in our district. And then when they get to the state tournament, they drive over to Hopewell But a little bit south of Richmond,
Right,
right?
right, right. I've been there. I've been there.
and got humbled real quick.
Right, right,
Yeah, and
right.
Hopewell I think went on to win the state championship as well. So there's a reason why we travel to Richmond.
Amen.
You
Amen.
know,
Amen.
we're looking for a different type of competition, and there's a reason why we like to travel outside of Richmond to go play games. We like to go to different states. We like to go all over the place because if we're competing with these people for scholarships, we need to see where we stand.
That's
You
right.
know, where do we fit? And so it happened. You nailed it there, and I get what you're saying. I mean, some people may try to twist that,
Yeah.
but I mean, inner city basketball, man. You're talking about when nobody ever thinks of suburbs when they think of good street ball or good basketball. I mean, you think of New York,
No,
you think
I
of
agree.
Detroit, you think of cities. Where is the mecca of basketball?
Right.
New York. It's Rucker.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Courtney, like she's been playing a lot of skilled suburban teams, but it was funny. She played this Maryland team, and the crowd was amped, and then like the other guards, they're pounding the floor. You know what I'm saying? Like when they're playing defense, they're pounding the floor. You know what I'm saying? And
Uh-huh.
bodies are hitting the floor and everything. And I was proud of Courtney at that time. She she did not back down. You know what I'm saying? So because when you're faced with that aggression, you know what I'm saying? Like it's easy to just
Hmm.
totally surrender. They lost the game, but Courtney did not back out. She stood and held her own. But that's why it's a report card,
Yeah.
and you gotta find out. That report card will tell you, are you headed toward being that 1.5%, or are you not? And you have to be on growth. You have to balance these three, and that can tell you three separate things: the growth mindset, the amount of time you have left, and then the game report cards that are telling you, are you in that 1.5% or not? So I think that's what separates a delusional parent from a parent with goals and high
Hmm.
standards.
Absolutely.
What is the
Absolutely.
report card saying to you? But hey, well, Coach Fowler, we just want to thank you for your expertise as always. We just want you all to understand that we're just trying to help the conversation along. Coach Fowler and I subscribe to a lot of the AAU groups, and sometimes we have these conversations, and it's just people yelling at each other through text, and they're not really hashing out and really thinking about it, and they're not really listening to the other person's perspective in these AAU groups. And I think we were very successful today. I think we fairly represented both sides of
Hmm.
of the delusional parent, and then also the parent. I shouldn't even say delusional. The parent that has those hopes and dreams, those outsized hopes and dreams, along with the parent who basically has a different perspective and has a more minimal perspective on basketball. There's something to be said about both sides, and hopefully you leave this podcast with a little clearer mindset. So thank y'all, and thank you, Coach Fowler. You have any closing thoughts, Coach Fowler?
No, man. Again, I just, if anybody has anything that they want to add to it, feel free to respond. I guess we're opening up comments or whatever to allow them to respond in the comment section or whatever. Um, you know, Let us know, because I mean we'd love to actually have an open conversation, and be able to answer back and kind of start some correspondence or
Okay.
whatnot.
Well, Coach Fowler, man, thank you again for all your expertise. We truly appreciate it, and we look forward to the next episode. And I hope you get some rest after that Orlando trip.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
All right, God bless.